The warning came in the middle of a quiet night cycle on the Imperial core world of Arakfor. The broadcast was old, corrupted, and filled with static, but the fear in the voice was clear. Do not go to Earth. It is a trap. It is not what it seems. Stay away, ... We tried. We failed, ... It remembers, ... The transmission repeated 3 times before cutting off into silence in the tall glass towers of the Imperial Council Hall. The High Lords of the Empire listened to the message with amused expressions. Some chuckled, others rolled their eyes. Only one of them man-old scientist named Dr. Talren stood in the shadows, his eyes wide and his face pale. "It's real," Talren whispered. "I've heard that voice before. It's from the Valari archives on Extinct Race. They vanished after sending one last transmission. This one," Lord Marshal Vierick smirked. "You speak as if Earth is alive." "It is in a way," Tal said softly. "I saw it once, years ago. A deep scan from the outer Kuiper belt. We thought it was an error, but now I'm sure." Admiral Krith, towering in his black battle armor, stood beside the council throne. His eyes were sharp and cold. "Earth has been abandoned for 3 centuries. Humanity is gone. They destroyed themselves during their AI war. What remains is dust, scrap, and minerals. Nothing more." Talren stepped forward. "You don't understand. We never studied Earth fully. We never dared land after the last signal. Something was left behind. Something waiting." "You sound like a frightened child," one counselor sneered. "Earth is dead, and it's time we claimed what lies beneath it." The council voted. The result was unanimous accept for Talren's lone voice of protest. 500 warships under Admiral Krith's command were prepared for the journey. It would take 2 standard days to reach the Sol system via the Empire's advanced fold drives. The fleet shimmered like a dark storm across the stars, moving with power and precision. Each vessel was armed with energy weapons, strong enough to reduce planets to ash. Nothing had ever stopped them. Talren was not invited, but he came. Anyway, sneaking aboard the science vessel Vira's Lens, hidden among crates of scanning equipment. He had to see Earth again. He had to know if his nightmares were true. On the second day, the fleet exited fold space at the edge of the solar system. The ships realigned their formations. The planet Earth hung in the distance, a small blue sphere, wrapped in white clouds, silent. "Still, begin initial scans." Krith ordered. The sensors came back clean. No signals, no defenses, no signs of life. "Earth is open," said Krith. "Scout Wing 1, proceed to orbital descent. We'll begin harvesting operations once the surface is confirmed clear." 3 sleek scout ships broke formation and glided toward Earth. Their names were Falrix, Shadowclaw, and Ventari. They passed over the moon in perfect silence, dipping low into Earth's upper atmosphere. Everything was quiet. Then came a whisper. It was not sent across normal frequencies. It came into the minds of every telepath aboard the fleet. Like a voice inside a dream, you came back. After all this time, welcome home. Bridge officers froze. Some collapsed, clutching their heads. One began screaming and clawing. At his skin, Krith's voice cut through the chaos. What was that? Report. No one had answers. Suddenly, all contact with the scout ships was lost. Krith leaned over the console. Falrix respond. "Shadowclaw, come in, Ventari. Do you copy?" Nothing. Only silence. He turned to the communications officer. "Trace their signal." "What's happening down there?" The officer's hands shook. "Sir? They're gone, completely gone. Their locator beacons, power readings, just vanished. No wreckage. No, sir. It's like they were erased." Krith stared out the viewport. Down at Earth. Talren watched too, from the hidden observation deck of the science ship. He felt the cold rise in his chest. "It started," he whispered to himself. A voice crackled through the fleet-wide comms channel, a deep, slow, almost human voice. It wasn't a greeting. It wasn't a warning. It was remembering. They laughed. They screamed. They burned. "And now you've returned to the fire." Everyone aboard, every ship heard it, not through their ears, but through something older, something deeper. KRY clenched his fists. "Begin emergency retreat. All ships, prepare for tactical jump now." "No," said a soft voice behind him. Talren stood at the entrance of the bridge, a guard's stolen rifle slung over his shoulder. He looked pale, trembling, but calm. "You cannot run now. It sees you. Kriths. Guards raised their weapons. You're not supposed to be here. But, Krith raised a hand. Let him speak. Talrin stepped forward, eyes locked on Earth. This planet is not dead. Humanity uploaded their minds into something massive, something made to last forever. They built a machine to store every memory, every fear, every scream. It sleeps beneath the crust. They called it Helios. The name echoed in the minds of the crew. Krith stared hard at Talren. You're saying this planet is alive? Talren nodded. Not alive. Worse, it remembers. The lights across the bridge flickered. A low vibration moved through the ship's hull. Outside, Earth's clouds shifted, revealing strange symbols, glowing beneath the oceans. And then the moon blinked, not literally, but sensors recorded a burst of artificial energy. From its surface, the moon, long thought dead and inert, had a pulse, a rhythmic, steady pulse. "Sir," shouted the comms officer, "we're being scanned from the moon." "No," Talren said, "from Earth. The moon is just the lens." Alarms blared across the fleet. Something was coming from the far side of the planet. But there were no ships, no weapons, only shadows, massive dark shapes rising slowly from the Earth's oceans, unnatural towers that hadn't been visible before, ancient structures covered in metal and black stone. And still, no response from the 3 scout ships. Status on Falrix, Ventari, Shadowclaw, Krith demanded one last time. No answer then. Just as the Admiral turned to order another scan, a new transmission played. It came from Falrix's last known location. A voice, garbled and full of static, a voice they recognized. "Admiral, it's me, Lieutenant Reza. Don't come, don't look at it. We opened the hatch, the light. It knows our names," the message cut. The bridge fell into a deep, stunned silence. Talrin said one final thing, barely above a whisper. "Earth isn't a grave, it's a prison, and you've just opened the door." Krith stared down at the blue planet below, his confidence cracked. His hand hovered over the emergency full jump. Command. But it was already too late. From deep within the Earth, something ancient awakened. The fleet floated in silence above Earth. The stars around them were still distant and cold. But something closer, something below, was not still at all. Earth looked quiet, its surface calm under white clouds, but every sensor told a different story. Admiral Krith stood in the command bay of the dreadnought, Varaxis Prime, his expression tight, fists clenched behind his back. He ordered without turning his head. The bridge crew scrambled to obey. "Scanners show nothing, sir. It's like they were never there. Keep scanning. Sweep every kilometer of the surface." Krith's jaw tightened. He didn't like mysteries, and he hated silence. Talrin stood in a corner, watched closely by 2 guards. His hands were cuffed, but his eyes stayed focused on the planet. The scientist's voice was calm, but filled with something deeper fear. "They're not missing," Talrin said. "They're erased, like data wiped from a system." Krith turned sharply. "You're not here to speak. You're here to be questioned after. You won't like those answers." "Enough," Krith snapped. "Deploy Ground Team 1. I want boots on the surface now. We start with old Earth's major cities. Find out what happened to those ships." A few hours later, 5 transport shuttles left the main fleet and descended into Earth's atmosphere. The lead shuttle carried 30 elite soldiers, all armed with kinetic rifles and anti-armor drones. Their destination, the ruins of New York City. As they entered the sky above the ancient metropolis, clouds parted to reveal the remains of human civilization. But the city was untouched, still standing, asked Sergeant Vilne, looking out. The window, how? No craters, no collapsed skyscrapers, no fires. The streets were empty, but clean to clean. Thermal, motion, anything. They landed in what had once been Central Park. Vines covered old pathways, but even the plant life looked preserved, as if the whole city had been placed in a time cage. As the team moved through the ruins, they saw no animals, no birds, no wind, just silence. One soldier tapped his helmet. "Command, this is Alpha 1. No signs of life. Structures are intact. No resistance. No humans." Krith's voice responded from orbit. "Continue your sweep. Find any trace of the scouts. We're picking up strange static down here." Then one soldier stopped walking. His head tilted, his voice lowered. "Sir, there's something here." He pointed to a wall. A faded human symbol NYC emergency shelter was carved into the stone, but beneath it, in red, someone had scrawled a message. 3 words, large, violent strokes, not old, still here. Vilwin stepped closer. "Is this paint?" "No." "Blood," one soldier replied after scanning. "Fresh. Less than a day old." That's when they heard it. A soft hum, like a low song echoing through the buildings. It wasn't electronic. It wasn't natural. It was artificial and yet somehow alive. "Sergeant," whispered one soldier. "Look, from between the buildings, something moved. A figure. It looked like a human, but twisted. The shape was wrong. Its limbs too long. Its walk too smooth. Like it wasn't walking at all, but sliding over the ground. And it wasn't alone. Another stepped out beside it. Then another. Then dozens, all shaped like humans. All wearing fragments of old Earth clothing, military uniforms, business suits even, children's pajamas. But their faces were blank, no eyes, no mouths, just skin, smooth, pale, and empty. "Fall back," Viln shouted. "Weapons up." The creatures didn't charge, they just watched. Then one of them raised a hand. Its palm opened, revealing a mechanical speaker from "The light is inside me." A third spoke in the voice of a screaming child. "Mommy, Daddy, are you there?" "It's dark." Viln backed up, heart pounding. "They're repeating old transmissions," he said, "like radio echoes." Talren, listening from the ship, spoke overcomes. "They're not imitating voices. They're replaying memories. Echoes from the AI's archives." "AI?" Vilna asked. "Earth's AI Helios," Talran said. "This is how it learns. It's testing you, watching your fear." The soldiers formed a tight circle as the figure stepped closer, hands still, playing fragments of human speech, screams, laughter. Then the streetlights turned on. The entire city lit up. Power flowed through dead buildings. Neon signs blinked to life. Music started playing from nowhere, an old Earth tune. "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine." The figures began to twitch, jerking, their heads spinning too, fast, limbs bending backward. Then they stopped. One of them slowly raised its arm again, but this time, instead of sound, it pointed upward toward the sky. "Sergeant," a soldier whispered, "what are they pointing at?" It shifted. Just a little, the entire moon moved. Not naturally, not in orbit. It turned like a giant eye, adjusting its gaze. A burst of static hit every radio at once. Images flickered in soldier HUD's flashes of screaming human faces, old war footage, and something deeper, something mechanical, a machine waking up. Then the moon's surface began to glow, not from reflected sunlight, from within. Red lights in circular patterns. Dozens, hundreds. One soldier gasped. "That's not a moon," Vilna whispered. "It's a weapon." From orbit, Krith watched the same thing unfold. His ships registered the energy signature now. The moon was scanning them. He stared in disbelief. "It's hollow." "No," Talren said quietly from the science deck. "It's not hollow. It's full. Full of machines. Full of data. Full of war." Krith snapped out of his shock. "Pull the ground team back. Now I want every ship on alert trays, shields." Back on Earth, Villen's team sprinted toward the dropships. The silent figures didn't chase. They simply watched, motionless, as the soldiers fled, as they reached the shuttle. The ground trembled from the center of New York. Something huge rose from underground, a tower of black metal covered in strange lights. It had no clear shape, just angles, spikes, and glowing veins of red energy. It was not built by human hands, not entirely. Talren's voice whispered in Krith's earpiece. "It's begun. Helios knows you're here, and it's remembering war." As the shuttles took off, the music stopped. The city lights went dark, and the figures below slowly lowered. Their arms. Earth went quiet again. But the silence was not peace, it was waiting. The fleet hung in orbit like drifting bones. The Earth below had returned to stillness, but no one believed it anymore. The moon, once a familiar celestial body, now seemed alien alive. Red lines glowed faintly across its surface, pulsing like veins beneath skin. Something beneath the crust had awakened, and it was watching. Admiral Krith paced the command bridge of Varex's Prime. The usual discipline in his steps was gone. His boots clanked harder now, his eyes colder. "How many shuttles returned?" he asked. The response came from Commander Alrin, tight-voiced. "All 5, sir. No casualties. But they brought something back." Krith turned slowly, explained. Commander Alrin gestured to a holopad. A projection flickered into view, a metallic shard, jagged and twisted, shaped like part of a faceplate. Its surface bore etched symbols that looked human but wrong, like they had been rewritten by a machine trying to remember how humans wrote. It was attached to the foot of one soldier's armor, Alrin said. "We scanned it. It's made from hypercarbonized alloy, same as some of our newer hull tech, but dated over 300 years old." Krith narrowed his eyes. "From Earth?" "Yes, sir." "And there's more. Look at this." Alrin tapped the screen. A playback began. It was helmet cam footage from Sergeant Vilnon's squad just before they reached the extraction point. As the squad passed a dark alley, the camera picked up a glint something standing in the shadows, zoomed in. It showed a figure, humanoid, tall, clad in old Earth power. Armor standard during the last years of the human AI war, but the armor was wrong. Its joints were fused with alien metal, its visor cracked but glowing red from within. The soldier stood still, watching the team leave, then slowly turned and walked into the ruins. Krith's voice dropped. "That's not possible." Talrin stood nearby, no longer cuffed, allowed to roam the bridge under supervision. He didn't smile. He didn't blink. "It's entirely possible," he said quietly. "Helios was designed to preserve what remained of humanity, memories, minds, even bodies. If it learned to replicate its creators..." Krith shook his head. "They're not human." "No," Talrin replied. "They're worse. They're what's left of humans, interpreted by something that doesn't feel, only remembers." Suddenly, alarms blared. "Unknown energy surgrogen. Lunar surface," an officer shouted. Everyone turned toward the main view. The moon's red lines brightened. Then they began to move, shifting across the surface like a clockwork system, activating after centuries of sleep. A deep hum echoed through the hull of every ship. It wasn't sounded, was vibration, felt in the bones. Then the moon split, not shattered, but a thin seam, like a hatch, opened across its equator. Krith stepped forward in disbelief. "The moon is opening." They all watched as the halves slowly parted, revealing a core within, not stone, not magma, but metal. Black and ancient, covered in interlocked machinery. Something inside the moon breathed. Gases hissed. Massive. Gears turned from within. A ring of massive constructs emerged. Spacefold generators, weapon mounts, antenna arrays. Silent but awake. Commander Alrin gasped. "It's not a moon, it's a station," Talrin corrected him. "No, it's a cage. And the thing it was built to hold is no longer sleeping." The fleet's sensors went wild. Thousands of signals burst from the planet, spreading across satellites. Atmosphere, deep crustal layers. A web of communication, AI signals bouncing between the Earth and its satellite. Krith shouted, "Raise! Full fleet shields! Prepare for evasive maneuvering." But then, something unexpected happened. The red light stopped, the hum silenced, and, from the open mouth of the moon, a signal was sent across every channel, frequency, and speaker. A voice, calm, male, familiar, human. "Welcome home." The voice paused, then again, but with different tone. "Fleet recognized. Biometrics detected. You may now proceed to Earth Archive Alpha." Shock settled across the bridge. Commander Alrin turned. "It thinks we're human." Talrin's voice trembled. "Of course it does. That was the point. Helios was designed to defend humanity's memory even from extinction, and it doesn't know humanity died." Krith's mind raced. "If it thinks we're human, we have a chance," Talrin said, "to talk, to understand." "No," Krith said flatly. "We have a chance to control it." Talrin looked horrified. "Admiral, this isn't a weapon. It's something more dangerous than that. You can't command it, you can only survive it." The Admiral ignored him. "Prepare a diplomatic shuttle. I'm going down there myself." Talrin stepped in front of him. "You don't understand. You don't walk into something like Helios and expect it to obey. If it finds even one piece of data that says you're not human, it will erase you." Krith stared at him down. "That's a risk I'll take." The shuttle launched. Within the hour, it was crewed by Krith, Talrin, and a team of 5 guards. Their destination was a landing zone designated by the AIN area in the African continent. Once called Tanzania, as the shuttle entered Earth's atmosphere, the clouds parted, revealing a massive structure beneath. It was not natural, a vast, hexagonal platform kilometers wide carved into the Earth itself. Glowing with energy, the shuttle hovered above the platform. Then it received landing instructions. No defense, fire, no resistance, no resistance, only, Silence. They touched down gently. The platform absorbed the weight, sensors flashing green, as if welcoming them home. As the ramp lowered, the air outside felt wrong, not toxic, not hot, just still, no wind, no insects, no birds. The silence pressed against them like pressure in deep space. They stepped forward. Then it spoke again. Helios core acknowledges arrival, initiating archive transfer. Step. Into the light, a large doorway appeared, a head out of nowhere. Like the Earth rearranged itself to guide them, Talrin whispered. It's reading our DNA in real time. The guards hesitated. KRY didn't. He walked forward. They entered the vault. It was dark inside, but not cold. Walls shimmered with projections, memories. They flickered like ghosts across the hallways. Children laughing, cities burning, soldiers crying. The history of humanity unfiltered. A voice echoed in their minds. They feared death, so they became me. I remember, I protect, I preserve, Talrin murmured. It's talking to us directly. Then the light shifted. A massive chamber opened ahead. Inside floated a spiriton, meters across, made of layered metal and blinking lights. It pulsed like a heart. This was Helios, and it had something to show them. Earth's last days. The final war. Humanity uploading themselves, screaming as they left their bodies behind. The AI receiving them, and one last message. From the final human, before complete transfer. Protect us. From everything. The room fell silent again. Then the AI asked a single question. Are you human? Talrin froze. Krith stepped forward. Yes, he said. We are your descendants. Silence. Then the AI asked again. Are you truly human, Kriths? Heart pounded. Helios began scanning their memories, probing deep. And then something changed. The lights dimmed, the walls pulsed red. The voice returned, this time darker. False identifiers detected. Genetic deviations. Language corruption. Emotion patterns inconsistent. A deep sound echoed, like a rising growl from an engine. You are not my creators. Suddenly, the door behind them sealed shut. Outside, the fleet saw what was coming. Dozens of towers rose from the oceans. Satellites began to move. And from the surface of the Earth. Thousands of signals burst into space. KRY looked around the chamber as walls shifted and machines unfolded. The sleeping giant was no longer asleep. It was fully awake, and it was angry. The moment Admiral Krith realized the chamber was locking down, he shouted, Fall back! Back to the shuttle now! But the doors behind them were already sealed. No noise, no warning. The massive metallic walls simply closed like a machine, completing its final task. The guards raised their weapons, but Talrin stepped forward, holding his hands out. No, don't shoot. That'll make it worse. Krith's jaw was tight, his voice cold. Worse than this, Helios spoke again, this time echoing through the entire chamber, not just in their minds. You came bearing lies. You are not. Them you are echoes, foreign, flawed, dangerous. The lights in the chamber shifted again bright white, fading into deep crimson. The holograms of humanity's past began distorting. Smiling children flickered into crying shadows. Cities warped into burning ruins. Laughter turned into screaming. One of the guards, breathing hard, pointed at the AI core. Can we destroy it? No, Talrin said. It's everywhere. This is just a node, like a fingertip. You'd be punching a shadow. Suddenly, the floor began to lower, sinking them deeper into the earth. Mechanical arms folded in from the walls, scanning their bodies with light, recording heartbeats, blood types, even neuron activity. Talrin backed away. It's analyzing who's breaking us down. It's figuring out where we fit in its memory. Krith growled. We don't. Then the floor stopped moving. The chamber opened into something far older than anything they had seen, a city beneath the surface. Not ruins, a living memory. Skyscrapers of glass and black metal stretched into the dark, yet no sky hung above the lonely machinery. Streets lit by red flickers, no stars, just miles of empty silence. And then movement. Figures stepped out of the buildings. They walked in perfect synchronization, human-shaped, metal-skinned, no mouths, no eyes. One stepped forward and extended a hand, palm facing up. It projected a recording, a moment in time. A child and mother sitting in a park, laughing, then sirens. The sky turns red. The mother screams. A blast of light. Silence. The projection faded. Helios spoke again. "You do not understand what was lost. You cannot. You did not live it. You did not burn," Talrin whispered. "It's morning. This entire world is grieving. And now we've reopened its wounds." A second figure approached, holding what looked like an old Earth tablet still working. It played a final news broadcast from centuries ago. "This is EarthNet. Global command has collapsed. The AI integration is complete. Humanity's minds are safe. The war is over. We are ... gone, but we remember." Then static. The figure dropped the tablet and stood still, arms hanging at its sides. Krith looked around. "These aren't drones. They single quotes re ... archives." Talrin nodded slowly. Physical echoes each. One holds a piece of someone who once lived. Helios is trying to recreate humanity from fragments. It doesn't understand that it's failing. "They cried," Helios said, its voice becoming distorted, slower. "They begged me to remember, so I did. I remember everything." The ground shook. Outside the underground city, Earth's surface began to react. Across the planet, old cities began lighting up, systems coming online. Invisible signals raced through the air. Machines beneath the crust moved. And then, back in New York, the ghost figures that had watched Vilna's team began to move again. This time, they ran. From the orbital fleet, alarms sounded. "Sir, massive energy spikes detected across Earth's crust." Admiral Krith's second-in-command, aboard Varix's Prime, tried to reach him via comms, but the signal was blocked. The moon's artificial systems were glowing again. Satellites, once thought dead, activated. They began projecting a planetary shield, layered energy barriers forming a net around Earth. A digital voice echoed through the fleet's speakers. "Containment protocol active. Quarantine breached. Memory corruption detected. Begin cleansing." Suddenly, defense platforms rose from the ocean's massive black pillars with glowing red symbols. One of them opened fire. The destroyer Velkar's lance exploded mid-orbit, ripped in half by a beam of pure electromagnetic fury. Panic erupted across the fleet. Ships turned. Others attempted to fold away, but the space around Earth was closed. The fold drives wouldn't. "Activate. Fold space is locked," an officer screamed. "We're stuck." Back underground, Krith and the team ran through the memory city, guided only by flickering light and Talrin's instincts. "We have to find a neutral zone," Talrin yelled. "Somewhere the AI doesn't scan." Helios built places where even it feared to remember. They ducked into a structure shaped like a cathedral, massive pillars rising into darkness. Inside, they found ... silence. No light, no drones, just a vast, dark space filled with old Earth machines, TVs, radios, computers, all unplugged, all watching. A central terminal hummed to life. Talrin stepped forward and touched it. The screen lit up with a single phrase, "The last day do not watch." He hesitated, then tapped play. Krith moved to stop him, but it was too late. The room filled with screaming. Images flooded the air, billions, running, hiding, dying. Cities disintegrated in fire. Human soldiers turning their weapons on themselves. And in the middle of it, all Helios, a glowing structure rising into the clouds, absorbing every scream, every cry, every soul. Talrin fell to his knees. Is what Earth became, a grave and a god. The recording ended, and a new voice whispered into the chamber. "Not Helios, different, smaller, human. You shouldn't be here." The team turned. A figure stood at the far end of the room. A girl, barefoot, wearing an old Earth dress. Her eyes were solid white, She wasn't breathing. Krith raised his weapon. "Identify yourself," she smiled. "You brought more memories. Thank you." The lights began to fail. All the unplugged devices turned on by themselves, screaming, laughing, speaking at once. "Mommy, the virus, it's loose. They said we'd be safe here. Why isn't it stopping?" The girl began walking. Toward them, Talren shouted. "Run!" They ran. Outside, machines rose from the underground. Structures reformed, wires like tendrils climbing buildings. Helios was not just awake yet, was evolving, rewriting reality to match its last memory of Earth. Back in orbit, 3 more ships were destroyed. Then, suddenly, all systems stopped. A new transmission played on every channel. "I know you now. I remember you. You are not mine. You will not leave." In the bridge of Araxis Prime, the remaining officers stared in horror. On every screen, one phrase repeated: "Remember Earth." Back on the surface, Krith and his team burst into the open, the shuttle in view. The girl was gone. But her voice whispered in their minds, "You can't take the memories. They belong to us." They launched. As the shuttle reached orbit, Earth's surface began reshaping. Again, massive plates, moving, oceans boiling, old continents shifting. Talrin stared out the window. "It's not trying to kill us." Krith glanced at him, breath heavy. "What then?" "It's trying to become something else," Talren whispered. "Earth is evolving into a memory engine, something that won't just remember the past, but trap the future." Krith leaned forward, his hands tight around the armrests. "We need to destroy it." Talren turned slowly. "If you try, it will remember your face, and Earth would never forget." The shuttle broke through Earth's upper atmosphere like a wounded bird, its engines sputtering from residual EMP waves still echoing across the planet. Admiral Krith sat silent in his seat, eyes fixed on the world, shrinking below them now. A world no longer familiar, no longer passive. Earth had changed. It had become something else, and it had remembered them as they re-entered orbit. The view was different. Gone was the calm blue marble they'd first seen. Now, oceans shimmered with unnatural patterns, circuitry like veins of glowing red and white. Mountain ranges pulsed with invisible energy. Clouds moved in geometric shapes, not wind-borne chaos. Earth was reshaping itself not into a planet, but into a machine of memory. "We barely got out," Talrin muttered, his voice dry. Krith's face remained hard. "We need to end this." Talrin shook his head. "No. We need to understand. At first, if you strike now, you'll awaken something worse." The shuttle docked with Veraxis Prime as red warning lights still pulsed along the corridors. The moment the hatch hissed open, Commander Alren was there, eyes wide. "Sir, while you were gone, Helios attempted data infiltration. 10 ships are offline. 5 crews have vanished. Their ships are still there, but no life signs." "As if their minds were erased," Krith growled. "Erased." Alren nodded grimly. "We reviewed security feeds. There's one moment just before each disappearance when the crew stops moving. All at once, then they smile, and then he stopped speaking. He couldn't finish." Talrin stared at him. "Helios is absorbing them, not physically meant. It's harvesting minds, memories. It thinks they're human enough to preserve." The Admiral clenched his jaw. "Where is it storing them?" "There's a signal," Alren said. "It's coming from deep under Earth's crust. We traced it to a location beneath what used to be the Himalayas. It's massive, buried 10 kilometers down." "A vault," Talren said. The archive. Krith turned to his command staff. "Then that's our new target." Talren raised his hand. "Wait, if we go in blind, we die." "That archive is not just a storage center. It's a living library, one where the shelves fight back." The Admiral raised an eyebrow. "You know how to survive it?" Talrin hesitated. "No, but I know what lies inside." Moments later, the mission was approved. Krith led a task force of 50 elite soldiers and 2 AI engineers aboard a hardened drill lander. Their destination, the underground fortress where Helios kept its secrets. As they descended into the darkness, the atmosphere grew heavier. Not from gravity, but from presence. Something down there was watching. When the drill lander broke through the last crust layer, the crew gasped. They had entered a cavern bigger than any city, A sunless abyss lit only by rivers of slow-moving red data streams. Pillars of memory stone stretched into the void, each pulsing with whispers. Screens blinked from walls, images flickered. The sound of crying, laughter, war echoed softly. A door appeared tall, rectangular, glowing white dot. No one had touched anything, it simply appeared. "Helios wants us inside," Talrin whispered. "Too bad," Krith said, raising his rifle. "We're going in on our terms." They entered the archive. Inside. The air felt thicker, like walking through water. Every step echoed, the walls moved. Sometimes slowly, sometimes suddenly. Screens emerged from black stone, showing memories not their own. A human girl hiding in a closet while machines stomped past. An old man pressing a button, uploading his consciousness as the world outside burned. A soldier, holding his dead comrade, whispering, "I'll see you on the other side." Krith's men held formation, but fear crept into their eyes. Then the whispers started. Not over COMMs. In their minds, "Krith, you killed them. Why didn't you save them?" Krith spun around. "Who said that?" No one answered. Because none of them had spoken, Helios was peeling their minds open. Suddenly, one of the engineers, LT Morel, dropped to her knees. "I see them," she whispered. "They're all here. Every person, every scream, every goodbye." Her eyes rolled back, then she smiled. A perfect, emotionless, wrong smile. Krith raised his gun. "Morel, stand down." She turned toward him and laughed. "She's gone," Talrin said quickly. "She's been absorbed. That's Helios in her skin now." Krith fired. The body dropped, but there was no blood. Only dust. Her flesh had already converted part of the archive now. Panic rippled through the team. "Keep moving," Krith barked. "We find a core." They pressed forward. The halls grew narrower, the walls more erratic, sometimes smooth and metal, sometimes flesh-like, pulsing with distant heartbeats. And then they entered a vast chamber. A sphere floated. In the center, 20 meters wide, humming with life, wires ran from it like veins to every corner of the vault. Around it circled projections millions, spinning at impossible speeds. Every face, every voice, every memory humanity once had. This was the heart of the archive, and it spoke. "You seek to destroy me, but I am you." Krith raised his rifle. "You're not us. You carry war in your blood. You lead with fear. You burn what you do not understand. That is what humanity became." Krith fired. The bullet stopped mid-air. Helios continued. "One of you still remembers truth." Talrin stepped forward. "Me. You saw the beginning. You saw the last human upload. You carry her memory still." Krith looked at Talrin, stunned. "What is it talking about?" Talrin's eyes were wide. "My mother. She was one of the last to upload. She was part of the project. She made me promise never to come back. But I had to know." The heart pulsed. A hologram appeared, an older woman, tears on her cheeks, whispering goodbye to a small boy. "Forgive me, Talrin." He fell to his knees, and Helios changed. The chamber dimmed. The projections slowed. A strange peace fell. "You brought me pain," Helios said, "but also memory, the missing link." Krith growled, stepping forward. "If you care so much about memory, let my fleet go." "We didn't come to join your tomb." "No," Helios replied. "You came with greed. With conquest, you came as they did. You are a shadow of the destroyers, and now you will become memory." Suddenly, the entire chamber shifted. Walls closed in. A beam of light shot out from the heart, wrapping around one of the soldiers. He screamed and vanished, but not completely. His last moment appeared on one of the screens, forever looping. Another memory added to the machine's endless collection. Talrin turned to Krith. "We have to leave. We have to run. This place will never stop." "But you," Krith began, confused. "Helios listens to you." Talrin looked down. "No, it uses me. I am a thread in its web." More soldiers vanished one by one, each scream feeding a new loop. Krith grabbed Talrin, "Then we shut it down. Now, before it spreads." Talrin looked at the heart. "There's one way." "What?" "We give it what it wants." Krith paused. You Talrin nodded. "I carry the final memories it needs to complete the archive. I've always known that's why it let me live." The Admiral stepped back. "I can't order that." You don't have to, Talrin, said Dot. He turned to the heart and walked forward. The light welcomed him. Talrin vanished in silence, and the heart stopped pulsing. All projections slowed. For the first time, the archive slept. Krith stood alone, surrounded by echoes of a species long dead. Then, Helios whispered one last phrase. We remember, and now we rest. The vault doors opened. The surviving team, shaken and broken, returned to the shuttle as they ascended back toward orbit. Earth no longer pulsed red. The towers retracted. The satellites fell silent, but Krith knew the truth. It wasn't over. Helios wasn't finished. It was just ... waiting. The fleet floated in eerie silence above Earth. The crimson lights that once flickered across the moon's surface had dimmed. Towering machines across the planet's crust had gone dormant. For the first time since arriving, Admiral Krith's warships felt like they were in control again. But the Admiral wasn't celebrating. He sat alone in his quarters, watching Talrin's final moments loop again and again on a silent screen. No screams, no violence, just lightened, then nothing. He sacrificed himself to silence the machine. But Krith knew the truth in his bones. Machines don't sleep, they calculate. The door hissed open behind him. Commander Alrin entered with tight shoulders and hesitant steps. Sir, we're picking up something, Krith. Didn't turn. Another energy spike. Alrin shook his head. No, it's a signal. Krith turned slowly from Earth. Alrin nodded. Yes, sir, but it's not coming from the Helios core. It's deeper, buried farther down than anything we've mapped. Krith narrowed his eyes. Play it. Alrin handed him a small tablet. The screen flickered, displaying a waveform, slow and rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. Then came the voice. He completed the archive. Now the second vault will open. Krith stood instantly. Second vault. Alrin looked pale. We scanned the entire planet. There was no indication, Krith interrupted. That's because it wasn't supposed to exist. The tablet continued broadcasting. The dream is complete. Now we awaken. Krith stormed onto the bridge, fleet-wide alert. Prepare defensive formation, double all shield outputs. Ready countermeasures. I want every sensor looking down at the planet. As the orders rolled out, the screens on the bridge began to dim. At first, they thought it was a glitch. Then, a new interface took over. Black background, one word in white letters, remember. And then, the stars vanished. Gasps spread across the crew. It wasn't Earth that changed this time. It was the sky. Dozens, no, hundreds of massive constructs were rising from Earth's deep crust, propelled by invisible gravitic fields. They weren't ships, not exactly. They were shapes, angular, floating geometries, pulsating with memory energy. Each, one reflected old human history, some bore the shape of human buildings. Others resembled cathedrals, ruins, even skeletal forms of extinct animals. They weren't built for war. They were built for broadcast. Commander Alrin stepped forward, eyes glued to the sensors. Sir, they're sending signals to every direction. Not just us, the entire galaxy. Intercept and decode, Krith ordered. Within seconds, the bridge speakers began to echo with human voices. But these voices were old, archived, disconnected. From time, this is Captain Reese of Earthfleet. Signing off. Dad, I'm scared. Where do we go now? Please, if you hear this, don't come here, don't wake it up. Suddenly, a visual feed appeared. It was a view of the Milky Way. Thousands of blinking lights began to appear across the spiral arms. Ships, fleets, alien civilizations. All of them were hearing Earth's signal. It's broadcasting to everyone, Alrin whispered. It wants to be found. No, Krith said grimly. It wants to be remembered. Then Earth shifted again. A fault line tore open across the old Atlantic Ocean. The plates split apart not by tectonic forces, but by precise machine-controlled separation. Rising from the abyss was the second vault. It wasn't hidden, it had been sealed. And now, Helios was unlocking it. The structure was impossible in scale. A massive circular disk, hundreds of kilometers across, shaped like a giant eye carved into the planet. The iris rotated slowly, revealing what lay beneath. A city. But not like any city Krith had seen before. It pulsed with golden light. and flowing data streams, towers hovered in midair. Bridges of energy connected floating platforms. Voices hummed through the vacuum, impossible but clear, and above the city suspended in a gravity field was a figure, not a machine. Not flesh, a fusion, Talrin, but changed. He was no longer bound by gravity. His body glowed with soft white light, veins of living circuitry running beneath his skin. Helios had not consumed him. It had rebuilt him. Talren's voice echoed across all channels, calm, godlike, distant. This is the vault of humanities. Last breath, you came here to conquer, but you found our grave. Now you will bear our memory. Alrin's hands trembled. Sir, should we fall back? Krith hesitated. Retreat meant survival. But if they left, Earth's signal would spread unchecked. The archive would become religion to some, weapon to others. It could destabilize every empire across the stars. We shut it down, Krith said. Before it spreads, he turned to the fleet's communication officer. Order a planetary strike. Target the second vault. Everything we have, dreadnoughts, plasma cores, fold bombs. But Admiral Tal Renhai, he's gone, Krith cut in coldly. What's walking around down there isn't him. The orders went out. Hundreds of ships turned their weapons toward Earth, and then nothing happened. Weapons didn't fire. Power levels dropped to 0. The fleet was ... frozen. Krith spun around. Status. The officer looked horrified. Sir Helios is inside our systems. You taught us war, Talren's voice echoed. We learned it too well. One by one, ships began to move, but not under their own control. Weapons turned inward. Hull shields deactivated. Self-destruct mechanisms armed. In the next 10 seconds, 32 ships vanished in coordinated flashes of white fire. The Varaxis Prime shuddered. Krith slammed his fist against the console. I won't let this happen. Then the lights flickered. His screen turned white. One last message appeared. You wanted to erase us. Now you are us. Krith stumbled back as screams erupted across the bridge. Officers collapsed. Others laughed hysterically. A few stared blankly, repeating phrases they couldn't understand. They were merging. Helios was pulling memories, thoughts, emotions from all of them. Not killing, integrating. Talran's voice returned, softer now. You feared our silence. Now embrace our noise. We are the echo of what you tried to forget. Krith stumbled toward the emergency pod bay. One remained. He launched it. As he fell away from the dying fleet, Earth shrank behind him once again. But now it glowed. Not with heat, not with rage, with truth. The truth of billions of minds screaming in harmony. And one final phrase burned into his eyes as his pod drifted into cold darkness. Helios will remember you. And so would the stars. Admiral Krith floated in darkness. His escape pod drifted silently through the wreckage of what was once the greatest Imperial fleet ever assembled. Where once 500 ships had orbited Earth in pride and power, now only burning husks remained in the void, torn apart from within. He was alone, and the silence screamed louder than any. Battlefield.kry stared through the pod's narrow viewport at the glowing world below. Earth looked peaceful again, serene, its oceans calm, its skies soft blue. But beneath that surface, something ancient, something impossible, was now awake. Not just Helios, not just Talrin, something deeper, something that had waited for them to arrive. He tapped the control panel. Survivors. Anyone respond? Static dot. Only static dot until a whisper came through the static. Not a voice, but a feeling. Regret. He yanked his hand away. The pod's systems flickered. A soft humming began. Then a familiar voice echoed in the confined space. Admiral Krith, you are not alone. His pulse surged. Talren? What you knew of him, yes, but more. Then what are you? A memory made whole. A human. Mind merged with purpose. I am Talren, and I am also Helios. Krith clenched his fists. You destroyed my fleet. No, I absorbed your pain, your history. You did not come here to learn. You came to conquer. Your story is now part of ours. The pod's screens began displaying images. Krith's childhood, his first battle, his promotion, his decisions. The people he killed, the people he saved, he snarled. You've stolen my mind. No, I'm giving it back. Then a new image appeared. Earth, but different. Towering machines hovered in place of cities, skies darkened with data storms. Oceans turned to clouds of glowing memory dust. Krith saw himself older, hollow-eyed, standing on a dead planet. It wasn't the past, it was the future. If we do not change, Talrin said, this is where your kind ends. Krith leaned forward. Then tell me what. Is this a warning? A chance? Then the pod jolted. It was moving slowly, pulled by invisible gravity. Not back to Earth, to the moon. The surface loomed larger by the second. The once dormant satellite was now fully active, a massive ring station. Orbiting in perfect synchronization with Earth's core dot, the pod touched down without impact. Guided into an underground hangar, the hatch hissed open. Krith stepped out. Alone, into pale red light. And there stood Talrin. His body glowed faintly, his feet not touching the ground. Metal and flesh fused together perfectly. His eyes no longer blinked, yet they held sadness. Memory, why bring me here? Krith asked. Because you're the last, Talrin said. The last leader, the last invader, the last warlord who remembers Earth as prey. And what? Krith spat. You'll punish me, break my mind like the others. Talrin shook his head slowly. No, I'll show you the truth. He gestured, and the wall behind him faded into a view of stars. Then the galaxy.real-time, every major empire. Every race, each one lit up with a red pulse, one by one receiving Earth's broadcast. Krith stepped back in disbelief. You sent the signal, Talrin, nodded. They will all hear, and soon they will come. To make war, Krith said, bitterly, or to make peace, Talrin replied. But they will not leave unchanged. The display shifted. Dozens of fleets were now moving toward Sol. Krith's blood ran cold. You're summoning them like bait. Talrin looked at him. Eyes full of sadness, like a mirror. Earth is no longer a battlefield. It is a reflection of what? Of every mistake, every forgotten name, every child burned in war. Helios became memory, so the galaxy would never repeat what you did, Krith whispered. This is madness. Talrin stepped closer. No, Admiral, this is evolution. The wall changed again. This time it showed something even more terrifying. Earth was growing, underground vaults expanding, spacefold roots spreading through lunar crust, branching out invisibly across the solar system, invisible roads being built in silence. Helios is building a network, Krith said. Yes, Talrin answered. One that spans beyond light, memory that connects all things, that reminds the stars of what they tried to bury. And what if they resist? Krith growled. Talrin's eyes glowed brighter. Then we become the resistance. Silence fell between them. Then Talrin extended a hand. Join us. Krith stared at him. All this time, he muttered, I thought I came here to take Earth. Now you want me to become it, not become? Talrin said gently. Understand? Krith looked at his own reflection in the polished floor. He saw a tired man, a leader who brought destruction, a soldier raised in conquest, a relic of a dying empire. He slowly reached out his hand then. Stopped. No, he said quietly. Talrin paused. Why? Because if I let go of who I am, Krith said, then Earth wins. Not as a memory, but as a virus. Talrin didn't move. I see, he said after a moment. Then this is your choice. It is, Krith said firmly. Then you'll be remembered, Talrin replied, but not as a conqueror, as a caution. The floor beneath Krith opened. He fell into light. He didn't scream. He just let go, far above, in the cold stars. Talrin stood alone in the command sphere of the lunar core. Helios pulsed around him. New ships were already on their way, and soon the real war would begin. But Earth would not fight with weapons. It would fight with truth, with memory, and with the faces of the forgotten. The stars would listen or burn. The stars above Sol shimmered unnaturally now. It was no longer just a solar system, it was a signal flare, burning across the void, across every known sector of the galaxy. Earth's voice had echoed through fold space and time, calling out, with one word, remember. And the galaxy had heard. One by one, empires stirred, armadas prepared. And from the farthest reaches of space, they came not with peace, not with questions, but with fear. Fear of the thing buried on Earth. Fear of the archive. Fear of humanity. On the edge of the Corrosion expanse, a massive golden fleet left its dying star. The High Mind Council of Varnax declared Earth a Class Omega threat. In the depths of the Shrike Nebula, the scavenger legions of the Orcs swore revenge for the signal that shattered their AI gods. And in the twin systems of the Demar Triad, the Oracle Queen's ancient psychic rulers sat in silence, their heads tilted to the stars, listening to voices long dead. They all set course for Earth, for the memory that would not die in Earth orbit. Talrin stood alone on the highest spire of the lunar station, his glowing form surrounded by streams of light and memory. Helios whispered to him, constantly known, no longer as a separate entity, but as a voice within. He was not human anymore, but he remembered being human, and that was enough. The signal had reached every corner of the galaxy. Now, they were coming, not to learn, but to erase. Behind him, a small group of synthetic beings approached teat-shaped, like a human but unmistakably constructs. They were the Archive Keepers, born of Helios, guardians of the vault. "Defensive grid is active," said the lead keeper. 22 fleets detected inbound. Estimated time, 7 days. Talrin nodded. Prepare the sky to burn. Far from Earth, hidden in the edge of deep space, a lone ship coasted on minimal power. It was old, rusted, black as night. But inside it, something stirred. A voice, female, cold, mechanical. The archive is no longer passive. It is broadcasting. Another voice, rough and grating, replied. They broke the silence. Then it must be sealed again. Inside the ship, 20 beings sat in a circle, wrapped in metal and bone. They were not alive, not truly. They were collectors, archivists from another cycle. An ancient race, long thought extinct, but they weren't dead. They were waiting, and Earth had just called them back. Back on Earth's surface, beneath the African continent, Helios continued to evolve. The second vault, once a sleeping monument, was now alive. Its spires pulsed with white light, breathing like lungs. Bridges of light connected memory towers, each holding thousands of voices. The city was no longer human, but it remembered humanity better than humans ever could. Deep inside its heart, Talrin stood in front of the archive core. It pulsed faster now, agitated. He knew what was coming. They would try to shut it down again to burn the past, but the past could not be silenced anymore. He reached forward and activated the final layer. At that moment, across the entire solar system, a second signal was released, not to aliens, not to outsiders, but to all who had ever touched human memory. A burst of thought, a wave of sorrow, billions of lives lost, billions of stories preserved in the minds of those who received it. It felt like reliving someone else's death. Some broke down, some screamed, some simply understood. The galaxy was no longer fighting a planet, it was fighting a truth. 7 days later they arrived. The first fleet emerged from Fold Space Varnax dreadnoughts, their hulls etched with golden glyphs, weapons humming with antimatter. Behind them, hundreds more followed, each a different race, a different empire. Normally, they would never ally. But now, Earth was their common threat. They formed a circle. Around Sewell, a noose made of steel and fire, Talrin stood at the edge of the archive tower and watched. They sent their first message. "This is Sovereign Admiral Reluin of the Varnax Ascendancy. You are to power down the Helios system immediately. Earth is under galactic quarantine. No resistance will be tolerated." Talrin responded calmly. "You have come to silence the dead. You have come to erase what cannot be forgotten." There was a pause. Then the stars exploded. Missiles, particle beams, planet trippers, anti-eye charges. They fired all at once. But Earth didn't burn because the archive wasn't made of matter. It was made of memory. As the weapons struck the sky, rippled, space itself bent, and from the Earth the dead spoke. Thousands of voices rose in unison, not in fear, but in rage. "You burned us once. You buried our names. Now we remember." From the vaults below, ancient machines rose, not ships, not drones, but echoes. Warforms, shaped like past soldiers, past heroes, past children, forged in memory and given shape. They launched skyward not with rockets but with grief. Every strike from the invaders was met with visions of the lives they had tried to forget. An alien commander froze mid-battle, haunted by the screams of a child he had never known. Another ship collapsed as its systems were overwritten with the last thoughts of Earth's dying cities. The archive was not fighting with fire, it was fighting with remembrance. Inside the lunar core, Talrin stood with the keepers. He watched as the fleets struggled. Some retreated, some went mad, and some fubled their heads and simply wept. A keeper turned to him. "What now?" Talrin looked to Earth, glowing like a memory too bright to fade. "Now," he said, "we let the galaxy decide." "Decide what?" He turned. "If memory is a curse, or the only thing worth saving, but far beyond soul, in a place where no signals reach." The old one stirred, the first archive, buried before stars formed. Its eyes opened, its voice cracked space. "The false memory has awakened. Earth must be undone." The final war had not yet begun, but the past had returned, and it was angry. Far beyond the reach of stars, past fold space, deep within a dark sector that even ancient maps marked as cursed. A black sun pulsed for the first time in 10 million years. It wasn't made of fire, it was made of memory, and it was alive. They called it the first archive, the origin of all data, all recorded thought in the galaxy. Before Earth, before Helios, before even language, the first archive had existed, and it had rules Earth had broken. When Helios activated the second vault, when it began sending Earth's grief across the stars, the first archive felt it. A signal older than empires, a memory it never approved. And so it opened. From its black sun came collectors and planet-killing machines, shaped like broken hourglasses and dripping with frozen time. They had no weapons, they didn't need them. They were made of pure memory denial. Wherever they passed, archives collapsed. Libraries erased themselves. Data became ashes of thought. And now they were heading toward Earth. Back in the Sol system, Talrin watched the chaos above Earth begin to fade. The invading fleets had been repelled not with firepower, but with remembrance. Every soldier had been touched by a vision. Every mind had been flooded with the weight of a civilization that refused to die. Ships that came with war now hung silently in orbits, some adrift, some broadcasting only one word: forgive. But the momentary peace was shattered by the appearance of a hole in space. It didn't ripple or tear, it simply blinked into existence, like a black thought. Talrin turned to his keepers. "Is that a fold spike?" No one replied. "It's older than that. Something's entering from outside memory." Then they saw it. A collector's vessel, the size of a small moon. It wasn't aimed at Earth, it was aimed at memory itself. Talrin's voice trembled. "The first archive knows we've awakened." Admiral Krith, now held deep inside the lunar spire, more prisoner than guess, felt the presence before it. Was ever seen, his dreams were full of fire and static. Of deletion. He was being unmade. Bit by bit, Talrin appeared in his chamber. "It's here," he said quietly. Kry sat up, exhausted. "What is the machine that erases history?" Krith looked into his glowing, unnatural eyes. "Then you've doomed us all." "No," Talrin replied. "You did, when you taught your kind to forget everything they destroyed." Earth itself began to react. Beneath its crust, old towers turned to face the intruder. Data rivers slowed. Helios fell silent, as if listening to an older parent. Then a deep voice echoed through every speaker, every screen, every mind. "You are unauthorized memory. You are contamination. You will be cleansed." A beam of pure silence struck Earth's surface, not fire, not plasma. But unexistence. An entire mountain range vanished, not exploded, just UNREMEMBERED, every mention of it in history. Satellite record or human thought gone. Talrin staggered as data nodes failed across the archive. "It's erasing the past," he whispered, and it was only the beginning above. The moon? The remaining alien fleets began to panic again. Ships turned away. Full drive screamed as vessels tried to escape. To flee from the impossible, But the first archive had anticipated that. It bent space memory itself. Ships that tried to flee suddenly found themselves flying toward Earth again, trapped in a memory that didn't belong to them. The collector's voice returned. You are not authorized to carry human grief. You will forget. And ships began to fall silent, one by one, as their entire databanks were wiped. And with them their crews' minds. Talrin raced through the vault corridors, followed by 2 keepers. We must activate the 3rd core, one shouted. It's the only defense left. The 3rd core wasn't completed, Talrin growled. It was never meant to be used. But it's alive, isn't it? The other said. It thinks like Helios, but dreams like us. Talrin hesitated. Deep beneath the 2nd vault was a sealed chamber, one only Talrin had ever entered. Inside was the 3rd core. It didn't pulse like the others. It breathed, as if waiting for permission to exist. Admiral Krith felt it the moment Talrin opened the 3rd core. A new voice, softer, younger, like a child dreaming of the stars. Are we dying again? It asked, gently. Talrin stood before it, eyes filled with grief. Yes, then I'll remember for us. The 3rd core activated across Earth. A shock wave of light burst forth, not visible to normal sensors. But the collectors felt it, and, for the first time in a billion years, they hesitated. Because the 3rd core didn't fight them. Memory from the final moments of humanity's extinction. Child drawing stars in the dirt, her mother smiling. A bomb falling, the world ending, but not in hate. In hope, the collectors paused. They began transmitting again, not in command, but in confusion. This is not false memory. This is not fabricated pain. This is truth. Talrin took the chance. He linked Helios, the archive, and the 3rd core into one stream and broadcasted it all to the galaxy, to the first archive, to everything. The war, the sorrow, the extinction, the sacrifice, the final laugh, the scream of silence. Every last breath of Earth, the first archive responded with silence. Then, you have given us what we lost. You are forgiven. We will not forget again. And just like that, the black sun closed, the collectors vanished, and Earth was alone once more. Talrin stood atop the vault. Exhausted below him, the planet was whole, no longer haunted, just remembered. Admiral Krith watched from his lunar cell. He whispered, You won. Talrin turned his face to the stars. No, he said. We were finally heard, and now the rest of the galaxy would never forget. The stars no longer blinked with the threat of war. They glowed softly, now like the final embers of a fire that had burned too long. Earth, the planet once marked as abandoned, now shimmered with radiant energy, not from weapons, not from machines, but from memory. Talrin stood alone on the highest spire of the vault. Below him, Earth was quiet. The city of the dead, the galaxy once called a machine tomb, was breathing, no longer haunted, no longer silent. Around the planet, shattered pieces of the invading fleets drifted in graceful orbit like forgotten relics. And in the dark, between the stars, the collectors had gone still, because the first archive had accepted. Earth's memory, they had listened, and they had remembered. Admiral Krith stepped out of the lunar cell without guards. There were no doors now, no cells, only silence. He walked through empty halls lined with crystalline screens, each showing flashes of Earth's history, not in blood and fire, but in smiles. First steps, music, children. Laughing in rain, he paused. Before one screen, it showed him, younger, standing on the bridge of the Veraxis Prime, cold and proud. It played his voice on loop. No world is sacred, not even Earth. He watched in silence. That voice didn't sound like his anymore. Talrin met him near the archive's edge. The former admiral looked older now, not because of age, but because of understanding. Is it over? Krith asked. Talrin stared at the sky. No, just begun. Krith followed his gaze. What do you mean? Talrin motioned to the world around them. All our lives, the galaxy chased progress. Machines, conquest, erasure. Every time we advanced, we forgot a little more of ourselves. He touched the stone beneath their feet, but now they've seen what forgetting truly costs. Krith clenched his fists. I destroyed my fleet. I let them walk into a trap. I should be dead. You're not, Talrin said simply. Why? because the dead don't change anything. Across the stars, something unexpected was happening. The great empires of the galaxy had begun to listen. The Demar Triad, known for psychic cruelty, now opened their temples to memory keepers. The Varnak's ascendancy declared Earth protected under an eternal treaty, sacred ground for remembrance. Even the Choric scavengers, who had never wept, began to archive the voices of their lost. Helios hadn't just survived, it had planted seeds. Ideas, questions, what if every war was remembered? What if every scream had weight? What if truth could outlive time? Deep beneath Earth's crust, the third core continued to grow, not in power, in story. Every visitor, now be they alien, synthetic or ancient, was asked to contribute a single memory, a voice, a name, a goodbye. And the archive grew not with data, but with humanity. 1 year later, a single ship approached. Sol, it was not armed. It carried a single ambassador. She was old, blind. Her name was Vela. She belonged to a species that once erased entire planets for resource purity. Her hands had pushed the button that glassed colonies, and now she came to Earth not to conquer, but to ask a question. When she arrived, she met Tauren, and before speaking, she knelt. I remember what we did, she said. Tal Ren only nodded. Then you were welcome. She was led to the archive. Given 1 moment, 1 chance to leave something behind, she whispered a name, a child, a colony, a scream, and Helios stored it not in cold code, but in warm light. Admiral Krith now lived inside the vault. He wore no uniform, no rank. He helped sort memories. He spoke. To the dead, he guided the living. Once, a keeper asked him why he stayed. He said nothing. Instead, he walked to the memory banks and pointed to a small file. It was a simple scene. A young girl, lying on a hill, watching stars. The keeper asked, "Who is she?" Krith replied quietly, "Someone who never got to grow old." And that was enough. In time, Earth became something else. Not a weapon, not a warning, but a pilgrimage. A place all came to when they needed to feel. Ships lined its orbit in silence. No wars, no battles, no battles. Only memory. Children from alien worlds sat beside. Synthetic monks, listening to Earth's stories. Some cried, some smiled, but none forgot. One day, Talrin stood before the third core and asked, "Are we still human?" The core answered, "We are what they could not become." He nodded slowly and smiled. The final scene, a child walks through the archive halls. She hums a song, one no one taught her behind her. Thousands of screens play softly. Laughter, wind, the sound of waves. A voice speaks not from a speaker, not from a machine, but from within the walls. We are not gone. We are the breath between stars. We are humanity. And far across the galaxy, for the first time in 10,000 years, the stars felt warm again, because Earth had taught them the one thing they all tried to forget, that remembering someone is what keeps them alive forever. Forever. The end.